Appreciate, oh, you're very welcome, you're very welcome. The primary, I'm David Escobedo, by the way, for you guys, for those that don't know me. Jose, this is Jaime, our equipment manager. Jaime oversees the maintenance and repairs of all of our equipment. Jose Murillo, he operates the Lakes Golf Course, so you'll see him over there all the time. I've been here for 10 years at Westbrook, so just to give you guys a quick backdrop of who I am and whatnot. This is my 38th year in golf course maintenance. I wasn't a plumber before, I wasn't a landscaper before, I wasn't an airline pilot or firefighter or anything. I was 15 years old when I got into this business, and I've stayed in it ever since. I started out working 12 years in Palm Springs at a club called the Springs Club when I was in high school in the mid-80s. It was just supposed to be a summer job. Now, how many of you want to raise your hand and admit that you had a mullet in the 80s? Yeah, guilty too. It went away, but that's how it was back in that day. I moved there, Phoenix, Arizona. I was offered a position in 1996 in North Scottsdale at the country club at BC Ranch. When I started there was only 3 holes that were constructed. The rest was just earth movers and caterpillars and dirt and whatnot. I was there for 6 years. 2 years I was there as a second assistant. 2 years later I was promoted to first assistant. 2 years after that I was the golf course superintendent there. I helped oversee the building of Silverleaf, which is right next door. Had the privilege of working with Tom Weisskopf, who some of you might have heard, I believe. He won the PGA championship in, I think it was 86 or something like that. Tough guy though, but it was really an awesome experience working with him. Got to work with another architect named Scott Miller, who worked about 20 years under Jack Nicklaus. Scott Miller designed Eagle Mountain and Kierland and Scottsdale. He helped with several of the Desert Mountain golf courses when those were built and whatnot. So I was kind of the kid that was always just, the young guy just always doing that to them, asking them questions, because there was nobody better to ask than the guys that were actually doing the work and whatnot. After I left BC Ranch, I spent a year with the city of Phoenix, thinking I'll manage one of their courses, working for the city. You know, I'll just retire there, you know, get my pension and whatnot. I was there for a little over a year and I just couldn't stand it. It's totally different when you go from a $1.5 million budget, having 36 employees for one golf course, to having 5 employees and no money at all. And so there wasn't a lot of motivation there for improvement and whatnot. And the city was just running these courses just for day-to-day operations. When I left there, I went to Palmbrook Country Club, just down the road from here. I was there for 10 years, from 2003 to 2012, and then in 2012 I came here where I am. So that, just so you know, that's kind of where I've been. So it's 38 years of golf course maintenance experience in the Southwest, and that's significant because if you go up to the Pacific Northwest, if you go to the Midwest, if you go to the Northeast, it's a different animal. It's like growing watermelons and apricots. It's totally different. Soil, weather conditions, weather, you name it, it's a different animal. So anyway, that's my experience and whatnot. The primary goal of this meeting that I hope you guys get is, I'm here to tell you guys what we do, why we do it, how we do it, and when we do it. So that when you guys leave here, you're going to have a better understanding of what you see out there when we're either aerifying or spiking, or why we're watering a little bit heavier certain times of the year and not other times of the year. And during this meeting, feel free to ask questions. It's an open conversation. It's an open meeting. I'll be doing a lot of talking, but please feel free to ask any questions. There are no stupid questions. We primarily grow Bermuda grass here, as you know, in the winter time, in the summertime. And then in the wintertime, we overseed it with ryegrass. So unlike many parts of other parts of the country, we're trying to keep grass green here 12 months out of the year, where many of the northern regions are focusing on maybe 6 or 7 months out of the year. We're going to give you a quick tour of our maintenance facility. You see a lot of equipment here. You're going to have questions of, well, what does this do? Why do we have this? Why do we have that? I'll be happy to explain everything that I can.
Is this a mirror image of what's at the lakes, or is there different?
Yeah, it's a mirror image of what's at the lakes. There are a few pieces here that we do share, and there are some, like some of the loaders and some of our other equipment, our trenchers, we do share and stuff. But as far as the mowers are concerned, each golf course has its own set of mowers and whatnot. And the goal for us, and the reason why is the goal for us is to get as much mowing done before you guys come out in the morning. A couple of weeks ago, we sent 2 Banks mowers to mow in the middle of a tournament, and they were able to mow maybe 5 holes in 4 hours. If they can get out before you guys do, they can get 18 holes done in less than 4 hours. So that's why our goal is that's why we have a lot of these mowers. It allows us to be efficient. Now those same guys that got the mowing done in the morning can go in the afternoon and do other assignments, as opposed to sitting under a tree waiting for golfers to go by and whatnot. So this is what we have here. Come on in. Hi, folks. We have name tags, bottled water. Just help yourself. Have a seat wherever you like.
There's cookies too, but
there's cookies too, but Dave's guarding them, so you got to watch out. What you see here is typical of a golf course of our caliber. There are golf courses with much smaller budgets, much smaller staff. You'll see they'll have less equipment, less resources. You go to the North Scottsdale area, they'll have 2 or 3 times the employees, 2 or 3 times the equipment that we have. So all that varies depending on budgets and what's available, resources and whatnot. I would put our golf course at maybe upper middle, and whatnot. Our members are not paying $100,000 to join $100,000 to join like they do in North Scottsdale, but you guys are not paying peanuts either. So, we supply, I believe, 2 quality golf courses, and the goal here is to show you guys how we do it. And the board is really helpful with getting us what we need and when we need it, because when we have what we need, you'll see it out there. And I believe you guys are seeing some pretty good right now. All right, any questions, anything? All right.
I have a question for Jaime. Do you take care of the maintenance at both courses?
No, just have 1 mechanic and over there, and then 1 guy that assists us. We have 3 mechanics on hand.
So as I walked through here, I stopped counting at 31 pieces of equipment. How do you maintain 31 pieces of equipment?
You mean like maintenance-wise?
Well, you got to sharpen the blades every day. You got to grease them, change the oil.
We grease them 3 times a week. We adjust them every day. We check for quality cards every day that they mow.
Do the operators assist you, help you with that? So they come in, they park it, adios.
Every day the green mower goes out, every day it gets checked for quality of cut, height adjustment, if the holes will leak or not.
Do the operators, when they come in, do they have a routine before they crank that $30,000 machine up?
We do it.
Throw it in the gear?
We do it.
You do it.
We crank it in the morning.
The mechanics start up the machine.
Yes.
And that's by his choice.
Some of the new machines have new emission systems. They can't idle. They're not supposed to be idle for long periods of time. The older machines, we can let them idle at higher RPMs. We gotta warm up the hydraulic system before. The other ones don't like it because if they're idle, that muffler won't, will get plugged up. Particles, and it won't mow. It will stop them there barely.
Are all the equipment, do they run on gas?
Yeah.
Most of the mowers are 90% of the mowers are diesel. Diesel. All but a few carts are gasoline. So most of the mowers are diesel. More than that.
Here's why you don't like.
Right. All right, folks. Well, let's go ahead and take a quick tour, and feel free to ask any questions as we go. One of the things that we want to show you is kind of the stuff that makes our greens like quality smooth. We've improved on quite a bit because of some of this equipment that we're going to show you. And that's primarily like our verticutters. These are what we call verticutting units. They don't actually mow the grass, but what they do is they'll pull up some of the grass. When the grass begins to get into, when the weather starts favoring growing conditions, the grass will start getting really thick. Almost like if you have a dog that needs to get groomed, if you don't, his fur gets matty and whatnot, if you will. And so that's what the greens will do if we don't verticut periodically. We don't have to do this very often in the wintertime, because in the wintertime the grass is not growing as aggressively as it does in the summertime. But once we start getting into spring and into summer, we'll be using these units quite a bit on the greens. This unit over here does the same thing, except we use this on the fairways and tee boxes in bigger areas. And so larger areas require a larger mower, a larger unit. So this is a verticutting unit that we just got that's going to help us continue to do this on our fairways and roughs and whatnot. Okay. When these two here are what we call our walk behind Aerofires. These are used on the greens and on the tees as needed. The tines that are on these units are different for demonstration reasons. What we use in the winter time is what we call needle tines, and that'll be these right here. Now you might ask, why do we use such a tiny hole in the winter time? Because in the winter time, when things are not growing, if we use a bigger tine like those over there, you'll have holes in the greens all winter long. They won't heal and stuff. So weather dictates everything we do. It really does. When we transition, when we overseed, how much we water, how little we water, when we fertilize. Weather dictates everything we do. So like this past weekend, we touched 97 degrees. We saw a lot of growth in the Bermuda on both courses where it's starting to wake up. It's coming out of dormancy. It kind of stopped now that it cooled down and the temperatures have kind of gone back to normal. But anytime we get, a warm spurt, the course changes. It can be different from one day to the other, and you hear commentators all the time mention that in PGA tournaments on TV. The greens are playing much faster today than yesterday. The course is much slower today than it was yesterday. If there was rain the night before, the greens are going to be softer. That favors the players. The course, the people that organize the tournament like it firm and hard. That was something we were able to do here for the Wisconsin tournament. We were able to not water the golf course for several days, greens included. We made them really hard. For the average golfer, they're not going to like that too much, But for the low handicappers, like some of these girls and even the PGA professionals, they love that. That's what they want. That's what they really like. Firm and fast. So we try to hit the middle, because we got members that can really play, and then some that are still working on things. So we want to kind of just want to be in the middle there.
Life.
Do we own or rent this?
Hang on.
Yeah, you said, except I am one of those golfers.
Sure.
Other ones, yeah. You said verticut?
Mm-hmm.
And this does the same thing?
Yes.
But they look so different. What's a verticut?
A verticut, like, how many of you guys remember those old electric shave commercials where they used to do a simulation where you splash that stuff on and your beard stands up and then the blade comes and cuts it? That's the same concept that this does. It stands the grass up, and then the regular mower will come behind it and cut it down and make it smooth.
And it looks different because on the tractor, this one spins that way, and the machinist spins this way. And that's kind of how the angle of the blades are that way, and the other one facing this way. It's because the machine runs the wheels this way.
We don't want...
This is going to be for the rubs and fairways. There's going to be on a tractor, just like the one over there.
Mirror image of that one over there. We don't want to drive that big tractor across the green, so we use this unit over here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Bob, to answer yours, we own these.
How long have we had this equipment?
These two right here, we've had for about 5 years.
5 years.
You're right.
Well, I've never seen the fairway punched with the hollow tine.
You haven't looked hard enough because we do it every summer.
Why don't we get some that's pulled behind a tractor rather than you have to walk the fairways?
No, we only use this for greens and tees. Well, I'm going to show you right now what we use for the fairways. We can go back over here. We actually share these.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is
I've seen the greens aerified. If I was just wondering about the fairway.
this is what we call these slicers. This is what we're using on the fairways from about November all the way into March. Same concept. Now, why do we use these and not big holes like these? Because these can heal really quick, and I'd say 80% of our golfers don't even know we use these, because it goes out early in the morning. It's very non-disruptive. In the summertime, we take all these off and put these on. These are what we hollow tine with, Bob. And these will go about 3 or 4 inches in.
They dig a gouge out.
They do. They do. Right?
Big plug slam.
Correct.
Right. It's a very messy process. That's why we do it only when we need to.
You have other alternatives available to you, do you not?
No.
What about a hollow tine similar to what you have mounted on that 648?
This is what we have.
Not on this machine.
You have others available to you.
No.
You could buy them.
No. To buy, yes, we do.
Yeah, you can buy a double wide
Yeah, we can.
single tine thing to pull behind a tractor.
What we're going to do this summer is we're contracting that out, and I'll tell you why I want to contract it out as opposed to buy it. Our soil here has rock the size of a softball just under the surface. And when I was at DC Ranch, we bought 2 units like the ones Bob's talking about, like those Aerofires back there, but they went on back of a tractor, and they were supposed to go about so deep. They lasted about 3 hours and they were destroyed because of all the rock in the soil. So what we're doing is we're going to contract that out this summer and have somebody come out here and do it for us. And if those machines break, it's not our problem, you know, and stuff, until we get the soil broken up enough. But these do a really good job to get you about 3-4 inches of good aerification where you can get water and air down into the roots.
We saw these last year, Jose, with the lakes. I mean, it really chopped the place up.
And that's the idea. That's the idea. If you're not chopping the place up when you did these, you're not doing enough. Right.
David, this morning you were running that on discourse. How often will you do that?
We were running that. You were running that yesterday. No, the dethatcher?
The dethatcher, I was using it at 19.
At the lakes.
At the lakes on 18.
On 18. We use that about maybe every other week. And what we're trying to do is just thin out the ryegrass a little bit. Without interrupting play, we're trying to thin out the ryegrass. Bermuda grass, for us to have a smooth transition, it needs sunlight. Try growing Bermuda grass under a tree. It will never grow. It'll actually stop right at the shade line under a tree. And so the ryegrass, if we let it get too tall, it'll shade out the Bermuda, and then come June when the ryegrass starts checking out because of heat, you'll have dirt there. We saw an ugly glimpse of it last year on holes 9 and 18 last year, if you guys remember, at the lakes and whatnot. Jose wasn't able to be as aggressive as he needed to be or water it as aggressive as he needed to be because we had a lot of course closures here because of the Greenside Sprinkler project. So all the play was over there. So this year, we're a lot more proactive with our cultural practices. We've brought the mowing heights down. We're doing a lot more of this and a lot more of that to try to get the Bermuda grass started. And we're taking advantage as much as we can of any 90-degree days that we get. That wakes that Bermuda up and it'll really move. You've probably seen the dormant, non-overseeded Bermuda start to turn green already. The areas that were not overseeded. That tells you this thing is waking up, and we want to be ready for it, because if we're not, we'll get what we saw on 18 and 9 at the lakes. When I started here in 2012, we were buying close to $20,000 of sod a year, sodding around the greens here at the vistas. The mentality back then was to let the ryegrass get tall, stay as long as possible. Hopefully it'll check out in July and then deal with the issues afterward. Well, that's not good enough for us anymore. We got members staying here all year long, so we had to rethink things. People do care now about what the courses look like in July and August, you know, and whatnot. So we've had to go back and with a lot of work with the University of Arizona, a lot of work with other golf course superintendents around the valley. We've developed a program, and also with the assistance of the USGA, that is encouraging us to do a lot of the cultural practices, as well as like the spraying of the herbicide that gradually checks out the ryegrass and whatnot. It's a combination of things that we have to do, and the timing is everything. Before we would start in April, well, April's a little too late. They're recommending we start in early February. And by doing so, I believe we're gonna have a really good transition this year. Not that contrary to what many think, many said, oh, last year's transition was a train wreck. It kind of wasn't, because we purposely smoked out the ryegrass. The chemical we used last year did what we expected it to do. We expected to have 4 to 5 weeks of iffy conditions, but by June we had some of the best Bermuda grass in town and stuff. But we had paid for it in April and May. This year we're taking a more subtle approach. We're going to kind of check out the ryegrass a lot more gradually. But these machines here are what are helping us do that, so that our goal is for no one to have to hit off of dirt. That's what we want. Nobody's going to hit off of dirt. You're either going to hit out a ryegrass that's starting to check out, or Bermuda grass that's starting to come up, but not dirt. That's the goal. Okay?
Hey, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
How much, because chemicals have gone up so much, how much more of that budget is that? That's a good question. That's still in the process. How much more has chemicals come up in price? With % or more.
At least, and we're having to change. Fertilizers that's a great question. Fertilizers have also skyrocketed. 80% of the fertilizers made in the world come from Russia. We know what's going on over there. So agriculture is going to get hit hard. You guys we're all going to see it at the grocery store, We've had to rethink how we're going to fertilize these golf courses this spring and this summer. Ammonium sulfate, which is a go-to fertilizer for low-budget golf clubs because it's high in nitrogen. Nitrogen stimulates growth. Was about $450 a ton. You could probably do about maybe 7 or 8 fairways with a ton. It's now close to $1,000 a ton. Wow. And urea, which is a higher nitrogen fertilizer that we use here in the summertime, was about $700 a ton, is now about to touch $1,400. They're just going through the roof. And how much we fertilize in the transition depends again on Mother Nature. Last year we had a very active monsoon. The monsoon showed up in late June, so we got that humidity, we got that rain, and when we get humidity and rain, we get ideal conditions for Bermuda grass. If you think of the name of the grass itself, you're thinking the tropics. So humidity, rain, wet conditions, that's what Bermuda likes. The year before that, in 2020, the monsoon was a non-soon. It was hardly here, so we had to fertilize 3 or 4 times more than we normally do. So like I say, Mother Nature dictates what we do. And Kurt, I got to take my hat off to him. He always found the funds that were needed to go that extra mile to help us get that extra fertilizer down that we didn't budget for. So that's a great question.
The other question is, I sell stuff to irrigation stores. They say their irrigation stuff is 200% higher than the previous year.
That's
the oil base.
Absolutely. PVC pipe is going through the roof. Our sprinklers right now, what are they for a sprinkler?
It's about close to $500 each sprinkler.
At his course, because of his irrigation system. Here at the Vistas, they're at about 320. Not too long ago, they were about 150. So
the whole sprinkler system, yeah, but it has a different electrical component on the ones at the lake since we did it 6 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So these are a little different, the solenoid itself.
Right. So we're watching that. That's one of the reasons why we're not doing an irrigation project this year on either course. We're keeping an eye on that. But thank God we did the greenside sprinklers here last year. We were able to do those before the big price hit. We were also able to do it in-house, which saved the club a lot of money. And we're saving close between 20,000 and 40,000 gallons of water a night by us doing that. We now have much better control of the irrigation system here at the Vistas. Now granted, the Vistas system here is pretty modern. It's not as state of the art as the Lakes is, because we all know that the Lakes got a brand new irrigation system back in 2015. But the system here at the Vistas is in pretty good shape. Knock on wood, I don't foresee us having to replace the irrigation system here for some time. It was much better built than what they did at the Lakes. At the Lakes, they cut every corner they could. They were using class 200 pipe, which is, I think the only specs class 200 pipe meets is for under your sink when you're in your drain. And here we use schedule 40, which is much thicker. It can handle up to about 1200 PSI and whatnot. So we pump water here at 150 PSI. So PVC schedule 40 is a much better quality pipe. That's what we have here. And that's why I believe the Vista system has been holding up pretty well. Keep in mind that the Vista system is over 30 years old. And that's usually the lifespan of an irrigation system. But usually you'll see signs very early when a system is going out, pipe breaking. You'll start seeing cracks in the infrastructure of the irrigation system. We haven't seen anything out of the ordinary here yet. So knock on wood, we're thankful about that. This machine right here is we call this our Throwback pull gang rough mower. This mower right here can mow about maybe 5-6 acres of grass in about an hour. This bad boy comes out when we are growing grass like it's nobody's business, usually around July, August. Like I say, when the monsoon kicks in. And keep in mind, when I mention the monsoon, you don't necessarily need the rain for Bermuda to grow. The humidity itself will really get that Bermuda going. So when the other rotary mowers that we'll show you right now fall behind and can't keep up with the rough, and I'm getting phone calls like crazy that people can't find their golf ball in the rough, that's when we start sending this thing out. And this thing can really helps us keep up with the rough, keeping it mowed. Oh, this will find the golf balls if you don't. With our 3 rough mowers, we have 3 and I'll show you the other 2. With our 3 rough mowers, it takes 3 employees approximately 3 days to get around the golf course one time. There's a myth per golf course. There's a myth out there that we mow golf with rough every day, and that's true, we do. We're just not mowing the same area every day. It takes them about 3 days to get around the entire golf course, and by the time they finish, guess what? We got to go do it again. You know, and that's the only way we can keep up with keeping the rough clean and smooth and whatnot, so that you're not losing your golf ball.
How do you sharpen these blades?
We're going to show you right now when we're done. Jaime's going to give a demonstration how we sharpen all the reels at the end of it. This guy right here, we just recently purchased. This is something that we share at both golf courses. When we purchase a lot of our newer equipment, we try to get equipment that that can multitask, kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone. This is what we use to trench whenever we do irrigation projects or drainage. We got a trench across a fairway, or for whatever reason. We used it a lot when we did the irrigation project here at the Vistas last year. But it's also got the capability to remove the trenching unit and put a bucket on it. Now, and we also use it now to help us inside some of the bunkers to spread sand in the bunkers, move sand from point A to B, and stuff. Because we have a smaller than normal staff, equipment like this is critical, because without this, we need 5 guys to do what would take us maybe just 2 guys if we have the right equipment. So we become very efficient with this. We also have forks there, so if we have to move a pallet of certain things, whether it be fertilizer or Jaime's new reels and bed knives or whatever, we can unattach either unit and put some forks on it as well. So it's a very efficient piece of equipment that helps us get things done with less folks, if you will.
How many employees are trained to operate that?
Right now we have about 4 employees. We're not real big on training everybody to use everything. And there's a reason why. We have a wide variety of employees here, and I'll be honest with you, we have a really solid group of people. But if I go into baseball terms, not everybody can play catcher. and not everybody can pitch. So we try to find what certain employees are really good at. There are some guys that are natural at operating equipment. They just pick it up like that. Maybe they played a lot of video games in their younger days, I don't know. But they pick it up really quick, and there are others that just really struggle. But they're awesome at smoothing out and raking bunkers, or they're awesome at trimming trees or trimming bushes. So we try to find what they do best and put them in those categories, and it works out really well. It works out really well and stuff. So this big monster over here is our Reiko Vac. That's another piece of equipment that we share as well. This is a vacuum. This unit here we use this especially Jose uses this more than the Vistas does at the lakes. 18, what holes? 18 and 9 and anywhere he gets leaves, you know, especially on 18 where the leaves, you can't even see the grass anymore because there's leaves everywhere. Where there's a lot of duck poop. This thing we hook up to one of these utility vehicles back here, and we turn this thing on, and it's just like a big vacuum cleaner. And it's got a brush attachment on it, and that thing will just start picking up debris. It's a really big tool for us after a monsoon when we got leaves and branches and stuff everywhere. So both courses share this, but it's primarily used at the lakes, but every now and then we'll use it at the Vistas if we have a lot of clippings or if we have a lot of stuff going on and whatnot. This bad boy here is our John Deere 310. We bought this about 3 years ago. This thing right here is a bigger unit of our older unit. That unit there is about 30 years old. This unit here is about 10 years old. We bought it used. Brand new, this unit was $132,000 when we bought it. We got it for $70,000. $70,000. So we saved a lot of money getting it used. One of the biggest reasons why we bought something like this was we had one summer where we lost 67 trees in one night in a monsoon. There was big pine trees across Westbrook Parkway, and we had nothing to move them with. And every tree company that we called was busy getting trees off of people's roofs and whatnot. And they said, you know what, you guys are just going to have to fend for yourselves. So after talking to the board and whatnot, we were able to get this at almost half price, and we've never had that issue again. It's got enough power also to remove tree trunks whenever we have tree issues. It's got enough power to dig holes whenever we have areas that we need to add drainage really deep and move stuff. This thing's got power like nobody's business. Once again, it makes us efficient. In the past, we were renting these pieces of equipment. It's almost $1,000 a day to rent this. So this thing's already paid for itself, you know, and whatnot. So whenever we have big jobs and whatnot, we send this big boy out there and we get it done in no time. And so it saves us in labor and it saves us in rentals and whatnot. So
How many people can operate that machine?
I would say almost half the staff can operate it. Yeah, right. This is a much easier unit to operate. We usually train them on this one first. Yeah. And then we'll move them, we'll graduate them to the big boy afterward.
I want to sit in it.
I'm going to bring you over to our mowers. We have two types of mowers here, and basically in the whole industry there's two types of mowers. There's actually a third, but I won't get into that one because we don't have it. We have what we call reel mowers, R-E-E-L. That's these bad boys. These are reel mowers here. These are designed to mow really low, less than an inch cut. And so the problem with these is that they're higher maintenance. Jaime and his guys are working on these a little bit more to keep them cutting good and whatnot. This particular unit here is an old Fairway mower that we retired, and we use this in the aprons around the greens and around tee boxes. We have 5 different heights of cut on the golf courses, 5. People don't realize that, and so you can't use one mower for all of them unless you want us to look like a muni that's out in the middle of nowhere, because that's what they do. One mower mows everything. We have rough height, we got fairway height, we got tee, collar, and approach height, we got greens height, and then we have apron height. And so we got 5 heights of cut, and that's what keeps our courses quality shape. This is a rotary mower. These mowers here are less maintenance, but these can only mow at about, what, 1.25 inches or above. basically designed for rough height. We keep, yeah, about 3/4 max. Fairway height is 1/2 inch or less. So these bad boys can only really be used for rough and whatnot. So if you got rotary mowers, they're low maintenance, but they're not going to help you a whole lot to mow your greens, your tees, and your fairways. If you add the tees, greens, and fairways, that's about 70% of one golf course. So these only really help us in the summertime when we have to mow on rough. Same. This guy right here does the same thing this guy does. They're just rough mowers. We use these quite a bit in the summertime. When these can't keep up with the rough, then we use the big dog over there, the pull gang that we just looked at right now. And among those three, we get it done. This right here is a fairway mower. We have 2 of these, one here, one here. These are about 6 years old. Each one mows the fairways. Jose has 2 at the lakes as well. Now, some ask, well, why do you have 2 fairways? Well, we got 24 acres of fairways to mow per golf course. And we have to get done before you guys come out, or I'm going to have an operator sitting under a tree all day. You know, so we start at 4:30 in the morning right now. We get these bad boys out there. During the growing season, we mow 3 times a week. We mow the fairways and tees and aprons and collars 3 times a week. We like to keep our course looking clean and healthy. I hate going to a golf course as a customer, as a player, and having my ball go into grass clippings. And that's a big no-no. From my mentors taught me that when I was coming up and coming. They said, damn, if your course looks messy, and it's crap. So if that's why you'll see our golf courses in the mornings without a lot of clippings. We make sure that we mow frequently. Also, mowing frequently keeps the grass healthy. It stimulates horizontal growth. And so that's what these mowers help us achieve and whatnot. Each of these mowers now is about $60,000 each. They're not cheap. They're all computerized. Jaime's had to go to Minnesota for about a week a couple of years ago to get educated on all the computer components on these things and whatnot. And that's why a lot of these mowers are sitting at the Toro headquarters in Minneapolis, because all the chips and computer products are on some ship across the...
What's the readiness rate or reliability rate of these welders? This one. I mean...
How many years you mean, or how many hours?
No, I mean, how often does it break down that you have to do some kind of repair that keeps a mechanic from going out and mowing?
I can answer that real easy. If we got a guy as good as him, and these guys are rare, and you can ask, don't take my word for it. Ask any golf course superintendent, anybody that knows anything about this stuff. Guys like him are hard to find. He's constantly changing the fluids, constantly keeping these machines in good shape. These machines can give us 6 to 8 years if we're really pushing it. Any more than that, you're kind of asking for trouble, because a lot of these parts are very expensive. So if he has to replace things on it, it's like putting a new transmission in a car that has 350,000 miles. You know, yeah, you're going to get a little more longevity of it, but pretty soon you're going to have other issues and whatnot. So we try to get these replaced every 5 to 6 years. We have our equipment on a rotation where we're replacing almost $200,000 a year in equipment. And I'll tell you what I've told the board. If you're cheap in the boardroom, we're going to look cheap out here. And that's the truth. Yeah, don't take my word for it. Go to Union Hills, go to Palm Brook, where they haven't bought equipment in 5 or 6 years, and see how they look and what they're dealing with. It's what I learned when I was at DC Ranch. I mean, I know we don't have that kind of budget, but we got one hell of a mechanic, and we got 2 assistants that really, know how to keep these things going and keep them running. And so 5 to 6 years, Dave, and then after that, you're pushing it.
Toro and Deere both made here. I know Deere is.
Mm-hmm.
Toro is also.
Toro is also, right. Their headquarters is in Minneapolis.
Do we have a preference as to which one we like as we get into the replacement cycle?
Toro,
yeah.
Toro has more of their studies and lawnmowers and stuff like that. John Deere is more like tractors, agricultural. Their technology is not there yet.
So Toro is the best brand for golf.
Yeah, like for example, this one has an info center, a computer, that depending on what David Heights wants, I'll just input that information and it slows this guy down. Now I can't do that to that one. It doesn't have that information. It just spins at maximum speed.
If you look at like the Masters, several other these major golf courses, the Masters, I love watching afterward while they're interviewing the guy. I'm looking behind him, hoping he gets out of the way, because I could see 10 Toro fairway mowers like this coming down the fairway and whatnot. But you know, it's a matter of preference. It's like Chevy and Ford. There's a lot of superintendents, a lot of golf courses that like John Deere better. You know, you'll see John Deere at the TPC here, but Arizona Cardinal Stadium, I see that vacuum, and I see the workmen that we have doing the football fields there. Chase Field at the ball field there, they're on John Deere. So it's a preference. I'm not the guy that has to crawl under the machine. He is. So I ask him, I tell him, what do you want to get? I say, just give me the results that I need, and whatever he decides is best.
If you hit something, it'll fall apart. It's not going to bend. And John Deere, they'll bend, and then I won't ever get this straight. I won't ever make it cut. This one allows me, it'll just break itself off. So it takes a lot of power to break it.
When I got here in 2012, we were 100% green and whatnot. So superintendent has a preference, you know. But you know, as Jaime says, I've always been a Toro guy myself. We've gotten great service from them. Not knocking John Deere, they have some good equipment too, but he's the one that has to work on it, and he always tells me it's a lot easier to work on Toros.
The height in a different machine, it takes me like 20 minutes to set the height.
Right.
David, whatever happened to Jacobson?
Jacobson was another big player in the 80s, and they kind of, that's like a 4-letter word to Jaime over here, but they went down real quick. They just, their quality went down. They're not really in the game anymore.
When it got bought out.
Yeah, they got bought out a few times and whatnot and stuff. So these are our T-Mowers here. This is also an apron mower. We use that for aprons. It's not much different than what we saw over here. But I kind of want to show you the difference between a T-Mower and a greens mower. This is a retired greens mower. So what we do is when we buy T-Mowers or greens mowers, usually what we do is so that our greens, which we consider the most important priority of any golf course, always gets the new mower. So what we do is when we're going to buy new greens mowers, what we'll do is just graduate these, move these over here. We get those out of the loop, and then the new ones start mowing greens. So we get new greens, we get new mowers on the greens at least every 4 or 5 years. Now the difference between the two, as you can see, is it's just you got your typical reel blade here. You got your typical what they call Wiley roller. On the greens, Rick, this is what makes the greens what they are today and how we've improved them over the years. This groomer right here. And as you see it looks a lot like a Verticutter. And that's basically what it is. This is right here. Go back to the electric shave commercial where it stands the beard up and then the razor comes and cuts. Those really, really help improve the quality of the greens. And we have that at both golf courses. So we don't need it on the tees because it's a pretty pricey piece of equipment there. But on the greens where you're putting and you're looking for smoothness and true roll and all that good stuff, that really helps us out a lot. And Toro has really improved on their groomers the last several years. These are the same mowers that they're using at courses at Desert Highlands, Estancia. Those courses are used to having close to 40 employees on staff. When I was at DC Ranch, we had 36. Labor is hard to find now. It's getting harder. You can't go to any place of business and not see a help wanted sign anywhere. So a lot of those courses are doing what we're doing, and a lot of the West Valley courses are doing is going to triplexes, which are these mowers right here. And with the improvement of the groomers, even the high-end courses are starting to use these quite a bit more. So it's a top quality piece of equipment, and I believe you're seeing it, especially here at the Vistas, where the greens here at the Vistas is an old grass, and I've said it in on the website articles. It's an old grass developed in the 50s. Newer courses that were built 20 years or newer don't even put it on their golf courses anymore. But we're able to get it to replicate what we have at the lakes. His grass at the lakes is much newer. It's much more modern. It's a finer leaf. If we'd have had these about 2 years earlier, if they'd have been around 2 years earlier, maybe we don't convert the lake screens, you know. So, but you know, these weren't around back then, so it is what it is. But to convert the greens at the Vistas to what the Lakes has, you're talking about at least $160,000. I don't believe we need to do that anymore. So we can focus that money somewhere else thanks to that unit right there.
Before the groomer, did they have a wire brush?
Yeah, there was a wire brush that was attached here. It looked kind of like a push broom, and it went out in the front, and we have all that stuff stored back there where we tried just about everything to replicate that. But yeah, that's the reason why.
So at different times, I've not necessarily here, other places, I've heard people say they didn't mow the greens this morning, they just rolled them.
Right.
Is there such a thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do that from time to time only in the cold weather, like after a frost, or if we need to get, you know, Brandon calls me up and says, hey, I got a shotgun, man, I need to get them out ASAP. We'll just roll because we can roll the greens almost twice as fast as mowing them.
And rolling means what?
Rolling means we don't have any rolling units here, Jaime. We'll show them to you, but what it is basically he'll take this unit off. This unit comes off, and then he'll put a unit that is just a roller. It looks like, you know, what do you call it when you're rolling dough? A rolling pin. There you go.
Yeah, it's got weights.
And it weighs about maybe 200 pounds. And it leaves it really smooth. Now you can get away with that when the grass isn't really growing. Once you get into the spring and summer, yeah, you got to mow because you're going to cut some grass every day. And we mow greens 7 days a week, just so you guys know. Unless we have a frost and if they're not growing, they get kind of weak, then maybe we'll back off from mowing them every day. But these mowers here, the greens mowers primarily, we put about 4 hours a day on each of them. And just so you guys just kind of give you an idea, 1 hour is equivalent to 75 miles. You know, so if you start thinking about, because all these mowers have what we call hour meters, and an hour meter tells you how many hours that machine is actually operated. So if you run into a machine that's got 4,000 hours on it, that's equivalent to 300,000 miles. And so it's expensive to keep a piece of equipment like that, because to replace all these parts and everything costs you almost what it costs to have a new one, but you still have an old mower and whatnot. So that's why it's real important for us to get at least what we call the bread and butter equipment, the equipment we use daily on some kind of a 4 or 5 year rotation and whatnot. So stuff like an Aerofire that we looked at, even some of the tractors, we don't run those every day. So we don't accumulate hours on those like we do these bad boys. So those we can probably put them on a 7 to 10 year rotation. But these right here are what make or break the golf course, you know, right here. This is what you'll notice right away when we have a bad mower on the greens or on the fairways or whatnot. These here are the Sand Pros. We have two kinds. Once again, like I said earlier, when we buy Sand Pros, we want to get some that we can multitask with. We purchased these about a year ago, and we got them with this push shovel, and it has other attachments that Jaime can remove and put on. We use this to help us significantly push DG when we did 6, 7, and 8 here at the Vistas back in December. DG is crushed granite, you know, desert granite, you know, the dirt. You know how we're xeriscaping here at the Vistas. We were able to get piles of dirt there, and with this, we were able to push kind of like you would snow back east, for those of you that are familiar with snow. And so if we really need to level certain areas, Jaime can remove the rakes that go on the back and actually rake the bunker, and he can attach that back over there, and now we got a grader and something to level and whatnot. So we're not renting equipment. We have what we need right here. So it's important that we get equipment that can multitask, makes us more efficient, and we're not having to rent as much equipment. About 6 years ago, we bought this guy here. Money was a little bit tighter then. So we bought the least expensive Sand Pro that Toro offered. We still use it, but this is just a bunker rake. That's all it is. It's got rubber tines, and it only rakes bunkers. And there, don't get me wrong, there's a place for it. But when Kurt and then the board says, hey, you know what, we got a little extra money, I'm gonna upgrade so I can get something that's gonna help me do more than just rake a bunker. And now I'm not having to rent equipment as much and whatnot. So that's the difference between those two. And we have these two at each golf course. These also expect them to give you about 5 years, because you're putting 3 to 4 hours a day on these. And remember, every hour is close to 75 miles. So these get used up quite a bit. So we try to send that one out maybe 3 or 4 times a week. And then the other days we'll send this one to try to offset that as well.
Rakes in or rakes out of the bunker?
Rakes, we prefer them in. We prefer no rakes. Yeah.
But new tires on there. The tires have to be replaced more often than the...
How often are we replacing tires, Amy?
Tires, this one, twice a year.
Twice a year?
Because of sun.
Yeah. It's like your car. Sun eats them up.
One over here to replace, but it's just the sun. Like that one, see this one? I'll run it out.
Hey, David?
Yes.
What machine, because of compaction, what would you use then?
If we're doing greens and if we're doing them at this time of year, we've been using these here. This machine on the greens and this tine right here. Now we've been using these on tee boxes because the grass is higher, you'll notice the holes less and whatnot. If we want to use for fairways and roughs and aprons where all the carts are driving, we're using that one over there. Okay.
David, do you do anything with the waste and the junk you pick up? You grind it up and, you know.
We have a Parks and Sons. We just put everything in the dumpster, and Parks and Sons just comes and hauls it away. We call them and they come out. Jaime, we just saw them the lift. Jaime's going to give you a quick demonstration of the lift over here. These vehicles are our primary vehicles. These things are haulers. This one right here, how many hours is on this one, you think, Jaime?
This one has 12,000 hours.
12,000 hours, so multiply that by 75. And this one's a little bit newer. We're starting to buy these in diesel, right? Yeah, and gas and whatnot. So these are gas and whatnot, but these are really strong. We use these to haul sand. We'll use these to haul debris. They can haul the vacuum when we're vacuuming geese poop or whatever, leaves and whatnot. And they're manual transmission. Everybody on staff knows how to drive these. My 2 sons are on staff here, so these saved me a lot of money. I was able to get them because they've been on staff since they were in high school. They know how. They're one of the few millennials that know how to drive a manual transmission. So I was able to get them a manual transmission vehicle. So the lift over here, Jaime's going to kind of demonstrate how he checks real mower heights, how he sharpens them, how he looks for things, changes oils. You want to go ahead and kind of explain, Jaime?
Every machine has a different setting on the lift. This one's just the greens more, just like David showed you over there. And this are your verticutters that he's talking about, and we can spin them. We can spin them on reverse, or we can spin them forward. And this is how they go up and down here. And they're not always rigid, so they articulate to the green. Back in the day, they were just stuck to the thing, so they scalpel the green, they make a mess. This one's counter to the green. And we can spin them both ways, because back in the day, they will only spin them in reverse. We can spin them forward and reverse. And every day they go out and mow, we check for the height, make sure it's cutting good. And that's what we do. And this one has a different setting, and depending if it's rain, it didn't rain, it's hard, I have to keep adjusting this up and down to get it to groom the green. And grooming is just grooming, it's not verticutting.
What's the benefit of it going in reverse?
There is no benefit of forward reverse. Back in the day, they thought the reverse would just bring the grass up and then the reel will cut it.
It's the same, right?
It's the same method.
Go for it.
So that's why they have it like that. So the roller, if it didn't have this groomer, the roller's supposed to pick up the grass. The reel brings it in and the bed knife cuts it. But here we can't do that, so we need this to send up the grass. It gives us that. So it comes in and takes it. And the rate of clipping will change if this is not on. It'll be less if this is not on.
I've walked during the winter. We don't groom as much because we're not getting as much growth. Bermuda's asleep and we just have forward drift, but I'll tell Jaime, hey, we need to turn the groomers on so tomorrow morning when we mow, let's make sure they're on. And it all just depends on what we see out there, you know, and whatnot. So we're always looking for consistency. When the grass is really growing, we're using these a lot. And what makes the grass grow? Mother Nature. Just keep thinking Mother Nature. I mean, I'd love to say David Escobedo does, but I can't do it. So really kicking in and whatnot, or even after a little bit of fertilizer and we get a lot of growth, we really got to make sure these are growing, or your greens will go from maybe a 9 on the stem meter to about a 6 the following day. You'll notice the difference. Before, for the life of me, get these greens to stemp above 7 or 8. If 8 was on a great day, we got the NCAA tournament. But we were really pushing them, not just with the groomers, but drying them out, cutting fertilizer back. You can do that. You're risking their health. And so greens, just understand, we can fertilize green and healthy, but they'll be slow and bumpy. We have a little bit hungry, not to a point where you're risking the health, but where they're not lush and growing like crazy, because then now they get really bumpy. When you put your ball, you'll see a lot of this, and they'll get really slow. So we have to be really careful how we fertilize them. When we fertilize them, we don't want to fertilize them if Mother Nature's doing it for us after a rain or after high humidity. So we're constantly letting Mother Nature tell us when and how to do things, and it helps us tremendously. This is kind of where Jaime spends a good portion of his day, or Danny, who's his assistant, and Eliseo, who's the mechanic at the lakes. Both those mechanics are under his supervision. He trains them. We have what we here is a typical reel, and this is from a Banks mower, Aprons mower, which is very similar to a Fairway mower height and everything. This is basically the unit here. This right here is your bed knife. This right here is what kind of, and basically the concept is for this reel to be spinning and pinching the leaf of grass right here, and then eventually cuts it. If this is not sharp, or if this isn't sharp, it's gonna just pull it out of the ground and not cut it. And that's very unhealthy for the grass, because when you have an open wound from pulling and yanking, you'll see the grass have like these yellow leaf tips. And it'll make your grass almost look like it's got like dew on it, even in the middle of the afternoon. And that's just from an unclean cut. So it's very important that the grass is mowed with a sharp mower, because the wound that we just created will heal much faster and won't hinder the health of the grass than if you mow with a dull reel and whatnot, and bed knife. So this is the bed knife right here. He's going to kind of show you how he sharpens the bed knives.
This is that bed knife over there. Every bed knife, depending on the manufacturer, has different angles. For this particular one, it has a 5 and a 5, so 5 in the front and the face right here. And I'll just set them right here. It already has them all input here, so it's a 5 and a 5. Just bring it up. And then I'll just go to a 5-degree angle. And we have a special stone that's got diamonds on it. The new metals they're building now, they're harder, and the regular ones won't do it. They won't cut it. They'll get all dirty and they won't grind anymore. And close this on. And when you set it, you have to make sure it's parallel to the stone. So pretty much the stone has to touch it lightly, and then turn it on.
Like putting a turkey in the oven, you can walk away. The old equipment you had, these were brand new, just about 2 years ago. The old equipment you had, we had to stay there and manually adjust. How much do you
Like this one's brand new, it takes nothing. Just a couple of times back and forth, and I mean that's how when they're dull. It takes like 20 minutes just to take that, or depending on how the reel was adjusted. So once you're done with that, you do the other side, and you just push it the other way. And this is the spot that cuts the grass. This is where the reel is gonna go itself and just makes itself smooth.
Having this kind of equipment, folks, keep in mind is what sets us apart. This is what makes our golf course better than the neighbors. When they're using grinders from the 1970s and we're using 2020 technology, you're going to see it out on the golf course.
So this is the sharpness that you want to see every single time. This is what cuts the grass. This on the top that we just did, this is where the reel is going to come every single time.
Am I saying something, or did you put a red marker on there?
I put a red mark so you can
Tell.
And we use red or any other color just to paint
Just
it.
to see it,
Just to see it, yeah.
We did that just for you, Rob.
That's it, it's done. And then if everything is set up the right way, once you bring it back here and you put it in this thing, it should just spin smoothly.
Give them a quick demo on the reel.
So that 5-degree angle next to this guy, the 5-degree coming down. And that's
How
what
many
it
times
is.
does it pitch you over from the
Does the reel get ground also?
Yes. Show them what.
And it gets relieved. So we do that here.
That's this machine over here.
You guys can come around if you guys get a little closer.
Oh, sorry, I was just trying to get more notes.
So this machine is pretty cool because back in the day, I couldn't see if the reel was bigger here or where it wanted. How would I grind it? So for example, if it was low here and high here, we just did this adjustment to tweak it and just grind it. Kind of grind it this way or this way. With this new machine, it has a little measurement gauge computerized to this, and it reads the top from here and here, and it feeds the information in here, and it tells the computer how to grind. And it's rigid, so I can't adjust it here or here. Once I put in information here, it'll go from here, and it won't touch here if it's cone. It'll just grind here, and then all of a sudden it'll start reshipping it back to factory spec.
How often did you say, like, you have to sharpen?
It just depends on what David's doing. Like right now, he's aerifying the banks, so I have to sharpen almost every month. Because he brings ground and dirt and rocks out of
Little rocks, any little rock can damage a bed knife for real. It's David's fault, you know. but anything like that, you know, you'll see the cut. Once you get the trained eye, you go out there, you can see, oh, this thing needs to be, this thing's getting a little dull. He's really good at that.
And back in the day too, they only did a flat grind. This machine's able to do a relief grind and a grind. A flat grind would be just like this, where the reel touches the bed knife the whole time. With the relief grind, where it would just, for that sharpen of the reel, just pass through there, which sharpens the reel at the same time at the bed knife and puts the temperature of the hydraulic down because it's not touching as hard anymore. And the contact to the bed knife is less, but the sharpness is still there. And it's able to do it in 30 minutes. Back in the day, it would take you all day almost to do one.
And how many of those, what you call that unit, how many of those?
5. It has 5.
5 per mower. If it's a Fairway Mower, 3.
And this machine, every time I put something, it'll ask me, is it a John Deere, is it a Toro, is it a Jacobson? I'll tell her what it is, and it'll ask me how many blades does it have. I'll tell her how many blades, and then it takes all that information. Because if I want to grind one of this, it won't do 12 if it has 8. It'll exactly know where it stops and ends. And it stops by itself. And it also allows me to put like how much I want to grind, like hard, small, or medium. And I can build programs like, for example, if David, it's top dressing, I can say, hey, in December he top dresses, and February he does this, so I just go in the program and I set it, and I know how the reel is going to take either 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Instead of guessing how much, or coming back and adjusting, it does everything by itself.
Jimmy, I thought I heard you use the female pronoun her and David was speaking about the bad boys, which I thought were kind of good guys. Is that why you're?
They're all good guys. Just so you guys know, before with the old equipment, if Jaime got a call that, hey, one of the mowers has a flat tire on number 15, he had to turn everything off, go out and fix whatever problem was out there, and then come back and then start from scratch. With these machines, and we've had them for about, Jaime, 3 years?
3 years now.
3 years now, and we have them at the lakes as well, so all the equipment over there gets sharpened with the same machine, but they have it over there. He can just put it on the machine, program it, just like putting the turkey in your oven. It's 4 hours, and it's whatever, how long that reel is going to take to get done. And he can multitask, be changing oils, doing other things, and the machine is doing all the work for him.
That's cool. And here I'm going to do a little session where it runs. I can control that. You can tell it's going to hit harder in the areas that it's cold, and the area that it's not cold, it's not going to hit. And I can't adjust it with my hand because I already took the readings on the reel. It's hitting harder right there. Once I'm happy with that, I can say we're going to do a light grind. We're going to do a hard grind so you guys can hear how strong. It'll adjust right here once it goes in. It'll get more aggressive as it goes. That's why it made it to stop right there. It'll stop by itself. If it were to be done, it would be stopped. And then it stops.
So, I mean, when those are done, is there any deburring necessary, or so they're good to go?
Yes, I backlap them.
Okay.
Once I put them on the machine, I run some grit on it, and then I turn the machine backwards on the machine itself, and it takes
So
that
you don't have a
deburring.
whetstone you put in there?
Because that'll give me a better clearance on the cutting. And that's it. And then the light tells me it's done. Come and get it. And that's it. And that's cool.
One last thing, if I can grab your attention real quick. We were asked about the rollers. Hey, we were asked about the rollers. These are the rollers right here. This is actually, so he'll take, this is a reel unit, the mowing unit. He'll take this off of the machine, put this on. This thing weighs, it's probably got a good 120 pounds and 150. And we have 3 of these on one mower. So what we'll do is we'll send this out, like if we got like a club championship, a tournament where we really want to make the greens really stand out, we'll mow them, and then the guy driving the machine with these will go behind the mower and mow behind the guy that will go behind the guy that just mowed. So this is how we roll the greens. He'll take the reel units off and put these on. We don't do a lot of it in the summertime because in the summertime we're growing so much. What we do so that we don't need an extra mower is a lot of times in the summer when the greens are really, I hate to say that we're losing control of the growth, but it happens from time to time when the humidity is really high and the temperatures are warm. We'll have the guys double cut them. So they'll mow them one direction and then mow them a second to get a much cleaner cut. You'll see that in a lot of PGA tournaments and big time tournaments. They did it quite a bit when I was in Ireland for the Irish Open. They were double mowing and rolling and stuff. They wanted to really get those greens fast. Like I say, we have to know our clientele here to make that makes a lot of decisions for us. When we were doing the lip at the lakes in 2015, the sod, we were going to convert the greens from the old Bermuda like we have here to a newer improved variety called Tip Dwarf, which is what we have now. The sod company that was supplying that grass really wanted us to get Mini Verdi, which was like, it was like like a Ferrari, just fresh out of the showroom. He says, "Oh, you gotta have Mini Verdi, or you guys ain't nothing," and this and that. And I said, "Look," his name was Jeff. I said, "Look, Jeff, I've heard about Mini Verdi. I know it's the cat's meow, but with the undulations that we have on our greens at the lakes, they would be too quick." I've talked to superintendents that have Mini Verdi, and they can't, in the wintertime, they can't slow them down below 14 on a stent meter. So think about number 18 green or number 6 at the lakes, how your ball would just roll into the lake, you know, from just a nice tap. You barely tap it and that thing's going into the lake now.
David, if I could tell, there might be a few people that don't know what a stimp meter is or what a stimp number. You put it up and the ball rolls down, and it's how many feet it rolls out is the stimp number, telling you how fast it is. So the higher the number, the faster the green. So earlier when he was talking about 6 and 8s and 9s, Augusta National, the Masters, what, 13?
They're about 13 or 14.
What are ours?
Ours here, we try to keep them above 8, between 8 and 10. 8 and 10.
Did you raise them for the girls' tournament?
We actually got them to 10 and a half. Yeah, we can speed them up if it's not too hot. We can really cut the water back. If it starts getting into the 90s, the temperatures, now we're risking the health of the grass. Not worth it, you know, and stuff. So, like I say, Mother Nature dictates what we do. And this isn't just Westbrook Village. Every golf course superintendent in the valley, every golf course superintendent around, even no matter what region, we're literally at the mercy of Mother Nature.
And
Yep.
the clarity of the water here on 14 is great, but over on 5 and 6, the lakes, it's real murky.
That could be tilapia. They could be really active. They usually stir up the bottom and whatnot. Yeah, we have them on both, but sometimes they're more active on one lake than another. And that's more than likely what it is. We don't put any chemicals or stuff in any of our lakes. We put tilapia every 2 to 3 years as needed. They help control the algae. The only downside to tilapia is if you get a really hard cold winter, they don't like cold water. Anytime the water temperature drops to about maybe 52, you'll get a lot of floaters.
You'll see those from time to time when it's cold, but you'll see the guys out there picking them up.
Well, 10 years ago when I was working in outside services, I picked up at 18 probably 200 pounds of tilapia in plastic.
I believe it. I believe it.
Talking about greens, I'm thinking of number 18 at the lakes.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had discussions with the board, any discussions about what can be done, maybe to harden the lower part of that green so it's not getting impacted so much? I like my ball staying on the green, but it is getting impacted really hard. Anything to do about it?
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. In fact, that's the first I've heard of it. But we have to really look at it, and there's some greens where we're going to have to maybe treat them a little different than others. That may be one of them. Could be we need to just maybe aerify that green with the needle tines just a little bit more, so it's a little more receptive and whatnot than we do the other greens, you know, and whatnot. So that's something to talk about.
Receptive. I think it's so soft on that lower end. It's taken hits from balls that are, you know, it's just getting beat up.
Yeah, the only real solution, and it isn't a solution, is because of the water in front, everything has to fly in. We don't have the luxury on that hole to maybe have it land on the approach and roll up. So it's a challenge. I mean, what we can do is cut the water back and firm it up a little bit more and something like that. So yeah, it's kind of a catch-22, but it's something we're going to look into. We can look into. Absolutely. And stuff. He's at the lakes, but yeah, he's still not at expert level, but we're working on it. Yeah. But we're starting to see less waterfowl. So just so you know, we've purchased a couple of drones and toy airplanes and whatnot to harass them. I've called just about every course in the valley, and nobody has a real strong solution to them. Yeah, dog is one thing, and that we've talked about too, but it's tough because the Arizona Department, the Wildlife Department really protects these waterfowl. So, you know, we're trying to find legal methods to to address the matter, but that doesn't mean Cousin Guido isn't thinking about something at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, we're doing the best we can with that issue and stuff. So, any other questions? Anything else? And folks, you guys got my email address, my contact info. You forget to ask me something tonight, please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
To get here today, so you have my email. The same thing, if he's not available, email me. He and I talk to each other just about every day, so. Any questions, good or bad comments? Absolutely. What we hope from here is that you share some of this with your friends, your neighbors, your golfing partners. You know, we always get your questions. We're going to have these a couple times, 2-3 times a year, because we're going to want more people to come over and see what we do. And we just appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thanks for the cookies.
You're welcome. You did that just for one day.
They're great.